Welcome back to Exquisitely Aligned. I'm Gina Meyer-Vincent, the host and your personal soul shifter, here to help you define and design the future you desire and deserve, the one where essentially you become exactly what the world is missing. Today, I am excited to introduce you to Leanne DiSanto. She has dedicated her life to helping people push through hard things so they can become their best selves. She knows firsthand how life can throw a curveball, from having a collapsed young lung at a young age of 16 and to becoming widowed at age 36, again young. She believes that resilience, perseverance, and discipline are skills that, if cultivated, can help you achieve anything. So there's more I can tell you, but I'm going to let it unfold as we go because I'm already excited. Leanne, thank you for being with me today. I am thrilled to see what we create together during this time, because I feel we have many things in common as far as we see and feel life. I know you come from a fitness background the way I have as well. And so if you don't mind, start with what was it like to be 16? I can't even imagine, and having a collapsed lung.
Yeah, thank you, Gina. I'm really excited for our conversation today. I was a track athlete. So I was, I practiced and I just felt this like pain.
Wow.
When I breathed in, I was like, oh, what's that? You think it's cramp, you think it's, whatever, right? So I didn't think much about it. And maybe a day went by. I don't remember the whole thing, but I told my mom and she's like, let's go to the emergency room. Let's go get checked out. So I went, and the doc said, yeah, it looks like, there's something there, but it should heal on its own. Don't worry about it. And then my mom worked for, just was an office manager for a psychiatrist at the time. And he said, that doesn't sound right. I take her to Boston. I grew up in Boston area. So we were in a smaller town, and he's like, go to a city hospital. So we went there and they admitted me and said, yeah, your lung is collapsed. It's just called a spontaneous pneumothorax. It wasn't any
accident. I like the
happens. I know, a long fancy name to say collapsed lung.
Oh my gosh. But the way you said it's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it was.
Wow.
So, I had to have a chest tube inserted, reinflated. I was in the hospital for a couple of days, and that was that. And then so I wasn't able to practice with my team. We were going to like districts and all these big meets, and I couldn't be in the meet. And I was actually a spectator at our district meet, and I felt the pain again. I was like,
oh gosh.
Weird. What's happening? I feel that sharp pain again. So when, some girls told the coach, I wasn't even competing, and there's, an ambulance on the field. So they put me in the ambulance. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm not even competing, and I'm going in the ambulance, and so brought me to the hospital, admitted me, and had surgery. So had basically 7 cysts the size of golf balls removed off my left lung. It's just sometimes I guess you're born with, and sometimes they let go. So it becomes like a pinhole in your lung. So when you breathe, that air leaks between your lung and chest cavity and causes a lot of pressure and a lot of pain. So completely unexpected. But I had to deal with that when it was, I think, my sophomore year of high school. So.
Yeah, perfect world, right? I mean, for your mom, dad too, right? You don't ever expect. I mean, I know I had chest pains at that age too, and my mom would be like, "You're breathing you drank through a straw, you inhaled air, or you're growing so fast." I mean, I'm so thankful that someone whispered to your mom, "Yeah, no, I think I would go a little investigate this further." And thank goodness the ambulance was there, but to have to go right into surgery at that age had to be completely frightening for you and everyone that loved you,
Yeah.
Wait a minute, what?
I know it was so random and bizarre thing to happen,
Yeah.
but I was under good care and, everything was fine. And, now when I get an x-ray, you can see these like staples because my lung is stapled to my chest.
Mm.
So it's like, people are like, you have a necklace? I was like, no, it's just my staples. It's all good.
I understand having a hip and shoulder replacement. I have fun x-rays, fun looking and funny looking x-rays. I'll never forget the first time they showed me. I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
like I could have done without that information. Now
Oh,
that
yeah.
I'm walking freely, like I didn't need to see that because now I'm a little like, ooh, a nerve. But so at that age, with such a, I'm going to use the word traumatic, like shocking, unplanned, especially I think when we're at 16 and you're athletic and all of a sudden, you're not able to compete and now you're in surgery and now you're recovering. Like how did, maybe I should ask, did it change how you saw and perceived and experienced the world around you? I mean, you're very young now, but it's almost like quickening the pace to becoming an adult is what I would think.
Yeah. 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 I think so. I think when you're younger, you just kind of roll with it, but, I wanted to get back on the track. I wanted to just get back to life. I didn't want to dwell on it and make myself feel broken or different or,
Right.
so yeah, so I just, I think that was the start of just feeling that like sometimes things happen and we have
Yeah.
to push through like
Oh, yeah.
sometimes unexpected things. And how do we, push through those things and try to get stronger because of them. And that's,
Right.
I think, started that kind of mindset for me.
I would imagine. I would definitely imagine. I think that we have the opportunity when things like that happen to say, are we going to just continue through living life the same way or let it open us up to another way of experiencing and understanding how our health can change our anything, our little world, and I don't mean little that you weren't playing big, but at 16, your world is a little smaller. And back then, not to say our age, but back then we didn't have the internet. So it wasn't as,
Oh, all you knew
far.
your little high school, your little town,
Yeah.
your bubble, right? Is what you knew. So
Yeah,
very different.
exactly.
Very
And then
different.
becoming a widow, I luckily, fortunately, thanks to a woman my age, my blood type, who was also an organ donor, I didn't have that experience. But there
Yeah.
were very many moments of not knowing if I would become a widow. And I'm trying to remember if I was about the same age. No, I was a little bit older. I think I was 39 when
Mhm.
Mark received his life-saving transplant. But was that, how would I say, unexpected? Yes, it's unexpected. That's not a good question. Um, did he pass quickly, or was it something he was struggling for a while and then passed? What did that look like, and how did you prepare, or did you have
Yeah,
time?
there was no preparation. It was very sudden. We moved around the country with his job. We had just moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and um, bought a huge house, and went through all that in March of 2000, and he passed in June. So
Yeah.
it was very sudden. He was in a meeting with a senior team. Luckily, he was in town. He traveled a lot. He was in Atlanta, downtown. I got a call from his HR director saying that that he collapsed, that they're working on him. He's being sent to
Oh,
Grady Hospital. Can you meet us down there? And he didn't feel well. He would off and on for about a year. He was having headaches and different things, but he worked out and, he just was like, I'm fine. Right. So, I was called down down to the hospital. I went to the waiting room. It was kind of his team was there. I didn't even know some of them, and they cleared the room. And there was the chaplain was there, and I said, "No offense, but what are you doing here?"
great. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, they always call me for a heart event. They're working on him now, and
Oh,
basically 10 minutes later, the doctor came in and said, sorry, he never regained consciousness. So I was just in shock. He was 45. I was 36.
mm,
It was it was basically ruled complications due to high blood pressure because he had an enlarged heart. So it wasn't a typical heart attack, but
Okay.
yeah, I guess that's why they call
Yeah.
it the silent killer, right?
Yeah.
It just sent me in a complete whirlwind, of course, of just needing to manage things. I resold the house. We met in California. No, we met in Atlanta and moved around. And then we were in California most recently and moved to Atlanta. So I wanted to get back to California. Anyway, just a lot of things happened around that. But the what now, the why,
Yeah.
a lot of
Yes.
that. But I think, not sure if again, grieving is different for everyone, but I've just always been pick yourself up by your bootstraps and keep going person. So,
Mhm.
okay, now what? And I think it's kind of interesting because when you do lose somebody, there's all of this whirlwind of things that have to happen, right? Planning the funeral, planning this. And I brought him back to Connecticut to bury him where he grew up, but we had, services where his corporate office was, back in California where that office was. So there was multiple memorials, multiple things. So it does keep you quite busy at the beginning when you're
Of
just
course.
in mode of, okay, I've got all these things I need to manage now. But then when that's all done, it's like, okay, wow, now what,
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what did you do in that now what transition? Because it's true. I think it also, so I'm not saying it's so having taken care of Mark and having dinner with friends who the dad just passed recently, and the mom cared for him for so many years. He had heart issues, a much older gentleman, different heart issues, different country. But she was struggling now because she's like, I raised 3 kids, then they were doing well. Then my husband became sick and I cared for him from then on. As those 3 kids moved out, then she became the caregiver to her husband. And now at this age, she's like, I'm like a little, like, what do I do with my time? But, and so you were talking about, you had a normal, happy life. You had probably a schedule. You had a brand new, amazing house, probably a dream home, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And then it's like the carpet's pulled out from under you. And then, like you said, you're busy doing things in multiple states with multiple different groups of people who all adored you and he. And then what did you do with that, like that, I want to say alone time, that quiet time?
Yeah. No, it's great question. I think it's a little bit of a, blank for some of it, but I think, our goal, he was in restaurants and I was in fitness at the time. I was a personal trainer and trained all over the country and worked in multiple gyms. And, basically, we wanted to, once he stopped working at the corporate side of restaurants, our goal was to open, become a franchisee and open a couple restaurants for him and open a gym for me. So it was really our goal in the future. He was doing this
you had plans. I love it.
Yeah. So when I felt most connected, I met him in Atlanta, but we had lived in Chicago. We moved to Dallas. We moved overseas to London, came back to Greenville, South Carolina, went to California, then moved back to Atlanta. So that was the whirlwind of buying, selling homes, him getting moved with his companies. And so I knew I wanted to be back in California. I felt the most connected. I had really good friends. So resold, the house, went back to California, and I really, in those conversations, I'm like, well, our dream was to do this. So I think I'm moving forward and look at, at the time I wanted just more of a boutique personal training gym. So I ended up, just buying an existing facility, remodeled it, and was able to run that for, 8 years. And so I just felt like I was kind of carrying on our dream, our
yes.
do. So I think that just staying busy helps, but definitely quiet times of the, what would life look like now if that didn't happen? Or in the 5 years, the 10 years that now he's been gone, 24 years in June. So crazy. Seems like yesterday, but So I think it's good to keep moving and good to keep, setting goals for yourself. I think if you just sit in it for too long. I mean, you need to give yourself time, right? To do that,
Oh,
but
of
also
course.
to then be able to have dreams and have something to work towards, I think is what really
Mhm.
along faster.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was a bit of an honoring of what we already had in motion,
Yeah, absolutely. Carrying it through, allowing him to see you glow in that realm, in that
Yeah.
space. I love that. Yeah. And I think it's always important. I mean, we never know. I like to say they're curveballs because I've had my own story with a hard and fast curveball myself that ended up in losing two joints.
Yeah, definitely.
But there are curveballs in life, and how do we? I think we're not prepared for them, especially as a 16-year-old, healthy, thriving, young, fast,
Yeah.
athlete, etc. And then again at, did you say 36 or did I write 32?
Yeah.
36, right?
36.
So we have the sixes. So like 2 decades later, another big so out of both of these, like what, besides what you've just said, is there another piece of advice that you would give besides continue on and keep moving, etc., to like, for us with experience exquisitely aligned, it's about being able to go inside and reconnect. Was there any part of those two that you found a part of yourself within the hell that you didn't even know you had, that you were like, wow, I really do have what it takes to, whatever that was, make it through, persevere, to be resilient, to hone in and refine these gifts that I have? Was there any shockers that came out to light for you, or just little facets of the diamond within you that maybe you hadn't explored before?
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, like what you said about, the perseverance, okay, this happened, I never really fell into, or the type of person that has a victim mentality,
Mm-hmm.
I've been like, okay, one of my favorite sayings is, so what, now what? So what? So what, that happened to you, now what? Now,
Mm-hmm.
what are you going to grow and learn and do because of that? And I think for me, I also, really, really tried to foster a lot of gratitude, being so grateful for every experience that we go through, because it's all a teacher, it's all just
Yes.
a teacher. So like very grateful for the time I had with Craig. I mean, I met him on a blind date and we married 10 months later, and we're together for,
Wow.
married 8, but together, almost 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's such a gift to have that time,
Right.
have had that time with him. And in terms of, the high school experience, I'm not sure if I was mature enough to see it that way at the time, but now, as I went through, I was like, okay, so I had this experience and I'm grateful for it, so I think if you can shift it to yes, moving forward, not sitting and wallowing in, the
Mm-hmm.
box too long,
Right.
but understanding that, because it's all part of the human experience.
Yes.
We live in a world now that's, oh, if you're unhappy, take a drug. If you're,
Right. Quick
having a
fix.
bad day, yeah, it's like, no, we're meant to be sad. We're meant to be lonely. We're
Right.
meant to, they're all part of who we are, so to bury it
Mm-hmm.
and to, dumb it down with, whatever, millions of addictions out there, right?
Right.
It's just not going to move us to where we want to be. And I love what you do, Gina, because again, I'm all about that alignment too.
Mm-hmm.
It's, and when I coach my clients now, especially, nothing erodes confidence like not keeping your word to yourself. So
Right.
it's keeping that word to yourself, actually following through, doing what you say you're going to do. So, where
Right.
you're, yeah, where what you say, what you think, what you say, and what you do are all in alignment. That's harmony.
Mm-hmm.
That's a quote from Gandhi, but that is, that's harmony.
Right.
That when you feel connected is when we're not in alignment, right? When we're not,
Right.
we're saying we want to do this and we don't do it. Then that just erodes that ability for us to even try, because
Mm-hmm.
right, it's like setting those New Year's resolutions. Yeah, I know, but February I'll be eating chicken wings and drinking beer at the Super Bowl. Why even set the goal?
Right.
So
And I think to speak to alignment, because I think sometimes people feel maybe they can't get the concept of what does it mean to align in all the ways that you just mentioned. And going back to our fitness backgrounds, right? That's an easy one to give somebody a visual. When
Yeah.
you lift up a dumbbell, or when you're doing a push up or a down dog, let's say, you want to be in alignment in your body so that you get the proper health benefits out of whatever it is you're doing, especially with yoga, because you're twisting and turning and using muscles to create this energetic sensation for each of those chakras, which are then in Chinese medicine, all of those pressure points, etc., so that it boosts your digestion when you're in bow. It legs up the wall, relaxes you and grounds you and puts you in that in the here and the now, instead of what's next, like on high alert.
Right.
And I think that when somebody passes away somebody young passes away unexpectedly, or anyone passing away unexpectedly, or you going into surgery quickly, we get in that 911 mode, and then we can stay in high alert. Like, okay, what curveball is coming at me now? But being able to, like you said, go through the emotions, ride that roller coaster. I think that I love that you brought up that point, because when we feel the lows, then we can feel the highs, right? It's almost like when we take for granted our health and then we catch, I don't know, a head cold, and we're all congested and we may go hoarse, lose our voice, or we're carrying around a box of tissues everywhere we go, and then all of a sudden, the day we feel back to 100%, we're like, oh, I value this. Like, it's where the days leading up to the cold, where you felt great, you just took it for granted. Like, yeah, I feel great every day. And
right. Yeah. It comes back to that appreciation and gratitude, right? Because we don't, feel it until we're out of balance somehow. Then all of a sudden we're like, oh man, and sometimes it's not maybe something, we go about our day and we're busy, and, we might not always be cued into it, but even just taking a minute or two in the morning or at night and just realign with that, like, wow, even if there's struggles, even if there's bills to be paid,
absolutely.
even if our kids are struggling, even, it's like, just, okay, how can I stay, in grounded in just gratitude for where I'm at, and all in, the new thing, the new, more, whatever you're looking for, in life. So, as opposed to being, knocked down by every little thing, and that's just, because we become what we think about. We know that now, right? We become what's constantly in our thoughts and what is in our energy, and that's what we're going to find more of, or what we're going to find evidence to, what we make things mean in life, right? We can make it mean whatever. And if we make it mean something negative, or, oh, poor me, or I'm just stupid, or all these, belief systems that are in, we're going to live with that. We're not going to be able to move past it. There's a great term called anti-fragile, which I love. It's, it's even more than just resilience. I love resilience too, about picking yourself up and being resilient, but anti-fragile is really, how do we get stronger and thrive in the stressor, or in the chaos, in the volatility, or whatever we're in? Like, how do we, get stronger? And there's so much evidence in nature of that, right? Like the butterfly, right? It help the butterfly out of the cocoon, right? It would die. Through the fight to get out, that's where it gains its strength and its beauty as blood pumps into the wings. And, so if you were to help it, it's not going to survive. But through that struggle, that's how they thrive and get and become a beautiful butterfly, right? So, and there's so many different examples in nature about that. And I think we're the same.
Definitely.
The more that we can, the skill set, right? Discipline's a skill set, perseverance. It's not about it being, great all the time. It's just recognize, wow, now I have an opportunity to really, exercise discipline, right? Now I have an opportunity opportunity to, I mean, you want more discipline, do things that require discipline. You know, you want more patience, well, do things that require patience, because it's a skill set you need to learn and push through those things, right? So that's, I've been coaching people in different arenas for 30 years, and that has been the conversation, whether it's, mindset coaching, whether it's body coaching, physical coaching, trainer, to now a cognitive specialist and working on cognitive skills for people, and how do we push through those hard things, and that's what I do with brain training programs. But, again, in every arena of our life, there's lessons and learnings. And so it's great, be able to just shift the thoughts around that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I see it a little differently. So I would describe it just similar but different. I think that instead of, when you need more patience, because a lot of people do, I have myself, what I learned is different in the program that I teach is a little bit different way of thinking. But oftentimes, if we're feeling very impatient, we're probably in the wrong place. And that could be in the wrong space, your physical space. It could be in the wrong workplace. I've been there. I was a department store buyer, loved what I did a really, did a beautiful job of what I did. But the energy, the environment, the politics, the backstabbing, right, was toxic. And so I couldn't stay there any longer. I had to get out. Sometimes it's the, like you were saying, the mindset of what we were maybe taught from a young age, from societal noise or norms, whatever you want to call it. But these belief systems that are really confining, or maybe we're in the wrong field. I love doing purpose, possibilities, and Prosecco, where in 2 hours we enlighten people to see what are their gifts, because so often we're taught what we're not good at and what we need tutoring or essentially something else on. But to go back to your point about resilience, we started this conversation today with very few words of, you had written to me via email, hey, what about this? And I said, sure, great. But what you didn't know, Leanne, is I just finished an article that's published now on facets of resilience and a diamond's tale of transformation, and how those times in our lives, that pressure of the collapsed lung, tragically losing your husband at a young age, him young, you young, and right on the cusp of like this new, like what I would say, dream life from what you described about your house and where you were living, and the goals that you each shared, and dreams and desires. But I do believe like we have to, or we have a choice. We don't have to do anything. So back it up. We live in a free will world, which is an amazing thing. And we get to decide, do we want to allow this to shape us, refine us, like that diamond with so many facets, or polish it up or whatever? Or do we want to just stay in the darkness of coal, being in the pressure of the earth, So I love that you had mentioned that. That's awesome. So tell us from there, because I know you're not, that the gym is no longer your business. I know that you work with mindset, and I love that. So if you don't mind, share with us where you are today here in California, one of my neighbors, not next door, but that would be fun, but close enough.
Close enough. Exactly. So I did the personal training. Like I said, I'd been some type of coach for 30 years, and from fitness went more into mindset, business, that type of coaching. And then got involved with a company called Learning RX, and came in just kind of as a consultant to the owner. Her name's Noha. She's amazing. We met, we really hit it off. And so just working, with her, and Learning RX does what's called cognitive brain training. So I was fascinated. I've always been in mind-body connection, and again, how we push through hard things, and oftentimes cognitive skills are linked not only to academics and doing well that way, but also life skills. So
Yeah.
I got involved with the company, and now I'm the director of the company. That was 4 years ago, but I just saw all the things we've been talking about really is what I see in our brain training programs, because we are working on things that our clients cannot do, right? They're weaker skills for them. They're either struggling, they're students that are struggling in school, or we have seniors that come to us. So really all ages. And we, through our assessment, can see, okay, this is why you're seeing what you're seeing. And oftentimes when there's gaps between this cognitive skills, a lot of behavior things can come up, because, we all find a way to cope, right? We have to cope with what scares us and what we don't want to do. And, so that really, informs the adult client or the parent, like, oh, that's why I'm seeing what I'm seeing. That's why they're melting down during homework. That's why they're zoning out. That's why they're resistant.
They're exhausted, like it's like learning Greek, if you're English speaking and all of a sudden you have,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So now with, brain training, which is like going to the gym for your brain. So totally connected, we use fun brain game type procedures to build the skills. So, and that way, then, you can learn easier, you can think faster, you can perform better, behavior, ways of being changed, like so many things.
Confidence, right?
And so
that's empowered.
Yeah, resilience, all of that. I can't tell you how many, especially kids, come to us that are paralyzed by making a mistake. And I was like, this is brain training. Like, if you're not making a mistake, we're not doing our job. We're working on things you cannot do, things that are really hard. But so the downstream or transfer effect of what we do is all of those things where now they're willing to, to push through hard things. Now they have more confidence and understand, okay, that's hard. Yeah, but I can do it. I can find a way through instead of just shutting down. I think, unfortunately, this immediate gratification world is not teaching those skills, It's just, I just pick up my phone and get any information I want. In our day, we had to, look at encyclopedias and go to libraries and wait for it a little bit, So
yeah, and I love that you were talking about making mistakes. I think that so many people fear a mistake, and having raised 2 children, and I've shared this on the show before, a friend of mine is the heir to a mistake. And the mistake was, I think it was great grandma wanted chalk that didn't leave dust on her hand or everywhere. And the husband was in the petroleum business. He created something. She put it on the chalkboard. It didn't come off. The Crayola crayon. So mistakes can be really just something else that was meant to be created, enjoyed, loved by kids around the world and adults. I think everyone smiles when or most people smile when they pick up a Crayola crayon and put it to whatever, a coloring book or a sheet of paper. It's old-fashioned fun. And so I think Darcy Rogers, who, Leanne, you also know with Organic World Language, she was explaining how they encourage these students. She was on episode 70, if you haven't listened to it. And then one of these upcoming episodes, I don't know which number, but we just filmed yesterday, where she was talking about how they encourage the kids they first create a safe space, and then allow the kids to make mistakes without judgment from others. And then we have oftentimes the internal judgment of ourselves, that fear of, I can't, not perform in the way, shape, or I've got to create the perfect chalk that doesn't leave dust. Right.
Yeah. I love that. And you know what? There is no innovation without mistakes.
Right.
Nothing's been invented the first time, It's like, oh, I got it right the first time. No, it didn't take Edison like 100 times to get the light bulb right. There's no innovation without that. So being able to help kids understand that, and again, not only in a world of just, trying to dumb down our emotions with all these other things. It's also all these labels, we don't diagnose, we don't label. I don't even buy into that label. I have so many parents that come to me like, oh, ADHD or dyslexia or this or that, or, so many buckets. And kids already know when they're not up with their peers. They already feel it. And
yeah, of course.
Get it and I can't. How come that's easy for them and I can't do it? It already sets up that belief system. And that's where I go back to the so what, now what? Okay, so what, you have dyslexia. We're going to turn that around for you. We're going to build the skills so you'll be able to read and and figure out your world and be okay with that. So what, you have ADHD. So, I mean, again, I think that's a big bucket term for a lot of things. There's a clinical term now called digital dementia from this, from us being, that's affecting a lot of us. And that's cognitive decline and memory loss due to too much time on technology. So there's so many things that are happening now, whether it's a diagnosis or not, we don't care. We just want to, elevate the skills, look at the, the gaps, close those gaps, and be able to change people's lives. So that's what I've always loved to do, in different arenas. And so I'm super excited to be able to do it with Learning RX now, and to see the before and afters, to see the growth from kids that come in on the spectrum that can't even look you in the eye, that are so afraid, that are being bullied, that, just all these things, to leaving with their head held high and, advocating for themselves and being able to handle their world. And so we've just seen just remarkable shifts, and that's, that's what it's about. And I know that's what you're about too. So
yes, I think that when we can empower people to stand in their power, and I don't see power as masculine, I see it as beautiful. And it's when somebody knows their truths, and it's not about the labels. It's not about diplomas and degrees. It's not about, all these things that, we put on different hats, we say, etc. It's more about, what you're doing and experiencing that day. And I think, like you mentioned about the cell phones, I mean, we're connected, but we're really truly disconnected. It's that lack of conversation. So I'm keeping an eye on the clock. And Leanne, it's time to have a different conversation with our opening to possibilities conversation cards. So let me just do one more quick shuffle. I shuffled them before I got on, but let's do it one more time. I'm going to rifle through the cards. You're going to tell me when to stop. At that point, I'll read the card. There's a word, then a statement, and then 3 questions. You can answer 1, 2, or all 3. So tell me when to stop.
Okay. Stop.
Oh, perfect. Advice.
Ooh.
Advice. Yes. Advice is abundant, even in unexpected places. How do you discern which advice to act on? Has someone else's advice changed your life? What is your favorite piece of advice to give? You can do 1, 2, or all 3, and I can reread if you need as well.
Oh boy. Well, I'm a lifelong learner, so I'm a big, from books to podcasts to YouTube videos to, and everything in between. So I think I've taken in a lot of people's advice. I really have, learned, shifted my perspective, been able to grow my own, myself internally as I help my clients as well. So always been open to advice and to feedback and to, hey, look at it a different way. What do you think about this? And I'm not sure about that, So I think for me, that's just, again, as a lifelong learner, I just suck it all up. I love it, in terms of the best advice, what was the question? Best advice I give?
Yeah. Has anyone else's advice changed your life, or what is your favorite piece of advice to give?
Oh boy, so many. I always say to my daughter, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, everything's going to work out. Yeah. Might not always be the exact way. And another is, everything you need is already inside of you. It's there, and just
Yeah.
trust it. And you're going to learn, and you're going to shift, and you're going to adjust. But, follow your head, your heart, and your gut. That's what you have. Follow that and learn and be grateful. And so what, now what, like all of that together, because, growth is a huge human need, right? The need to be able to grow. And I think when we stop growing or think we know it all, right? Or, that's when, we just stagnate. So to be open to that, to keep learning and growing is has always worked for me. And I think that's good advice.
Yeah, I love it. So thank you so much for being with me today and sharing some not so comfortable times with us so transparently, what it felt like, what the journey looked like, etc. I greatly appreciate it and had so much fun with you. So thank you, Leanne, for joining me today.
Thank you. I'd love to also offer your listeners just a 50% off our assessment. Anyone that's interested, and feel free to put my cell phone number in the show notes.
Okay.
I'm the director of the center, so you can call me directly, and we can set that up. But I'd love to offer that to your listeners. So.
Okay, perfect. That's wonderful. Do they need a code, or just when they call you? Mention the podcast.
Mention the podcast. That'd be wonderful.
Perfect. Awesome. So. That's great. Thank you. Thank you for that generous offer. We greatly appreciate it. So, and so if you're struggling with anything where you feel like you're that diamond, being pressured by whatever it is, outside sources, life-changing events where the rug has been pulled out from under you, or you just see something greater for yourself, let me know. Reach out to Gina at exquisitelyaligned.com. Also in the show notes, love to set up a discovery call and see if there's something I can help you with. Till next time, be exquisite.